Hello.
Hello.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt, who you are, what you're currently doing, what you are, and then we'll go back in time and we'll ask a little bit more of your history, if that's okay.
Okay, I'm Matt. I'm a guitar player and I teach guitar. I have played guitar for 20 years.
Don't look at me, we've only known each other 10.
There you go.
But yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Because when we met, it was just...
It was 10 years then, so
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So tell us, this is all about different people's musical journeys, and what I'm really wanting is to inspire people and to encourage people who've come or who are coming into music in different ways to continue that journey and to be inspired that you don't have to come in through grade, you don't have to come through this way or that way. So it'd be awesome if you could just tell us a little bit about how you first came into music at all. When, I mean, obviously it's more likely to be guitar, but you know, if there was a different way you came into music, when and how and where.
Yeah. So I started learning the flute.
Did you?
I did say, there we go. When I was 8 or 9.
Wow.
I did that for about 3 years, but then it was quite boring. So that didn't last very long.
Just delete that little bit, flautists.
I regret it now. I should have stuck with it, but
you reckon?
Yeah, but you know. So yes, that was till I was about. I pretty much stopped when I started the guitar.
Yeah.
And I only started the guitar because my brother had a guitar, and he gave it away to his brother's girlfriend, his girlfriend's brother, without asking me. So my
Bugbear,
so it was like, right, I want a guitar. And this, 20 years later.
20 years later, you now have a guitar.
I now have a guitar. So yeah, so that was
funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
What motivates you at the beginning,
yeah,
but then it becomes
it quickly dissipates, and it's,
yeah.
And I suppose for the first year or two, I had lessons for about maybe 6 to 8 months.
So did you literally be like, right, sod you, I'm going to get a guitar?
Pretty much.
Got a guitar, and then was like, right, sod you, I'm going to get lessons straight off as well. So it was like guitar and lessons, or was it guitar, fiddle around?
Pretty much guitar and lessons.
And was it just a bog standard acoustic, or?
It was electric.
Oh.
So, yeah. With a lamp. Yes, about 8 months of lessons. Then the guy moved, so we just sort of stopped because he moved. And then it sort of went off the boil for about a year until my friend got a drum kit. Then,
I see where this is going.
Yeah, so then there was someone to make noise with. And then that was about 13, 14. By that time, I think we started to perhaps carve out your own musical taste.
Yes.
And sort of things that you start to hear things that you want to play.
Yes.
And then when your friend also wants to play those things, that sort of spurs you on. So,
yeah, I suppose it pulls you along with them too.
Yeah. So we used to go down to his house and jam pretty much every weekend.
When you say we, so
that was me and him, sorry, that was me.
No, that's cool.
And then later on, another friend, he got a guitar and he joined in. And then another friend didn't have a bass at the time, but he borrowed the drummer's dad's bass, and then we had a band. We didn't have a singer, we never had a singer, but they're not important.
Careful.
Who needs a singer?
They're nice.
Who needs one?
Yeah.
So we just played instrument. We just played like Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. Probably butchered Black Knight more times than anyone could care to imagine.
But I mean, come on, some of the best music.
Some of the best music ever. But
yeah.
It was great. Probably not as we played it, but
it's great if it inspires you to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. Said nobody ever about 50 Cents or whatever they're called.
No, none of those rap and hip hop groups.
Yeah, the hip hop. Yeah, carry on.
And then we sort of carried that on through school because we went to the same school, and we had really good music teachers.
Do you think that makes a difference?
Yeah.
In what way?
Just they were really encouraging. I mean, when we were in year 9, I think we used to have 2 English lessons a week, maybe 3. But I think for about a year, 4 of us didn't go to one of the English lessons because we were practicing for a concert. And the music teacher was fine. She was like, just go and tell them you're practicing for a concert and come back and play for an hour. So we're going to do that. Obviously, you would not get away with that now.
That's
Can you
impressive, isn't it? Yeah.
So yes, that was like every Wednesday afternoon.
So how is your spelling now, just out of interest?
It's marvellous. As long as the work got done, it didn't matter.
Well, this is it, yeah.
You know, and to be fair, they trusted us to do that. It was a case of if you don't, or if anything comes back that you're not pulling your slack in English.
Yeah, but that's marvellous then, that it showed that you did and you could.
Yeah.
And you got so much more out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so those were just like free lessons where you guys just jammed a bit more, was it? Or was it more structured?
No, we just jammed. Just honed the craft.
Well, you did.
But we did. I think now and then we do a performance in music, just
to the class.
To the class, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a recording somewhere of one of them. If I can find it, I'll show it. I have it somewhere. It's not good.
So at this point, were you reading music?
No.
Were you just
I'd read music
tab,
with the flute, but that never really translated to guitar.
No.
So it was all just
imagine.
tab and learning from songs, just trying to work things out.
So it was more learning by ear and using tab as a guidance.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much. So no, I didn't read music until I started, I think, when I was about 18.
Right, okay.
We did a module on it when I went to college.
So let's go back through school then. Yeah. So did you do music GCSE at school?
Yes.
Right. So you'll have got a little bit of understanding of it that way, we would hope, but you know...
Not necessarily reading, I think the theory side did.
Yeah.
And there is bits of it that have always stuck.
Which bits?
So a major chord is made up of a major third and a minor third, and a minor chord is made up of a minor third and a major third. So you go root, major third, minor third for a major chord, root, minor third, major third.
Yeah.
For a minor chord. We learned that in about year 7. That's just the way of explaining that stuck with me.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's like me and those tetrachords I was just telling you about.
It's just so simple.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
There you go. But again, it's just different ways of remembering these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what's wonderful about music, in that it's so mathematical that there's so many things that work, and you know, this is the square root of this is the square root of this. If you times by this, ends up with A major, whatever, you know, and that's so wonderful. But it means that there's so many ways. But that's what's so wonderful about it as well.
So the GCSE side, not a lot of it stuff, because it was more. Modules history around certain styles of music,
and what do you think any of that had any relevance to the now? Do you think it's something you've ever used or referenced again? I'm getting into dangerous territory, but I just struggle with some of it.
From the history side, probably not. I think it has changed now. I know it's changed, and there is a slight more emphasis on popular music, although it's weighed more evenly, whereas when I did it, as far as I can remember, it was mostly classical.
I think that's what you can expect. You know, there's nothing wrong with learning a bit about the Renaissance, the Baroque going through, but I think, you know, to ignore popular music and to ignore what's going on now and the trends that are happening to date is fool's play.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to engage people who don't already, if they don't have any interest in classical, and to be honest, how many younger kids are going to have that necessarily, unless their parents come from it. Again, to me, that starts to, you could argue that classes don't exist, but there's still some class divisions there, you know, and so it's still going to be the same class of children who are getting private education and violin, who are going to know their classical, and so they'll be the only people who get anything from that.
Yeah.
Where your average Joe is, until they get something that can relate to, they're not going to be interested.
Yeah,
and I suppose
absolutely.
that's why I ask.
No, absolutely. It does carve it out for the privileged in that way, because certainly classical instruments aren't easy to learn.
They're not easy, and they're quite expensive to get ones that are good enough.
Yeah, and then that makes a difference. You can get a guitar for very cheap that will do the job, whereas a violin or a flute or something might never ever be in tune.
Yeah.
At that quality.
Yeah.
So that immediately prices a certain sector
Yeah.
of people out of the market.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So I don't remember doing any popular stuff. I think we may have done the blues. I remember we had to do a composition. I remember doing a 12-bar blues thing.
Did you have to do solos and
Yes, we had to do, I think, 2 performances. I think I did.
Was it solo and ensemble? Wasn't it?
No, I think they were both just. I can't remember. Maybe there was. I know we did the rock school. There was something out of the rock school we did.
All right, rock school being the exam board.
The exam board, and then grade. It might have been grade 5, I think, back then, or maybe 3.
And so presumably you did all of those on the guitar.
I did them on the guitar. I can't remember what I got. I think it was a C or something overall. Or maybe a B, I don't remember. But I think the exam portion of the thing just didn't do anything for me. The written exam, I think I flunked that. Didn't flunk it, but it wouldn't have, if it was solely based on that, it wouldn't have been a fair representation.
But that's precisely it. It wouldn't have been a fair representation of you as a musician and your developing musicianship. And this is kind of what I want to get at, the fact that where I am, and I think I got what did I get? No, I think I might have got a C for music, thinking about it. Or was it a D? I know I got a D for German. Only because my brother got a G for German and I got a D for Deutsch.
There you go.
So at least, I got a little bit better than him. Back in the days when, A was the top mark.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it might have been a D, actually.
Right. Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look, but it certainly wasn't high.
Yeah.
And then I didn't go on and do A-level music because it wasn't offered in the school.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested in it, even if it had. So you did GCSE, and other than having a really encouraging music teacher and being given that space, which is marvellous, to practice and do your own, also to do your own thing, not even structuring it in any way, but just allowing you that expression. And you could argue that I'm getting all, bingly-bongly by saying allowing you the expression, but it absolutely is, because it meant you could do exactly what you wanted, go down whatever you wanted, and that gives you that ability then to really engage more with the instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's that freedom, and I think you need that because it's exploration. At the end of it, if you want to create your own music at any point, you have to have the confidence in going through that process of finding mistakes, making mistakes, and knowing how to come back from them, and without having a set program where you think, okay, this is absolutely right. If you say, right, you have to learn these 3 songs perfectly. If you don't do that, then you haven't reached that point. But when you're doing your own thing, you even learn other people's songs, we never learned them properly. There was sort of hashed versions, but they sounded close enough and they sounded different enough. We used to do a version of House of the Rising Sun where we'd start off really slowly, and then we just put it in like triple time, just for the crack. But it's that exploration if you can do it. But if we'd just gone and learned the song as the record, for the point of making it sound exact, we wouldn't have done that. I equate that to the difference between learning a still life,
which again, there's still lifes and there's still lives, but if you try and draw a still life, and if it doesn't have anything in it and it is a still life, it's more just a copying of something rather than if you were to create something yourself. Now that's not taken away from the artists who do still lifes, because those that are good still have movement and everything in them, and that's the point. They've taken the reality of the idea and they've created it into something more, which is what you're saying about things like House of the Rising Sun. It equates to that, where if they literally just copied it precisely how it was, it's likely to have been slightly tedious.
Yeah, absolutely.
That analogy isn't going to run its whole way. There's holes
but I think
in
it's
it.
Useful.
But
it's useful.
Yeah. So, were you still getting lessons at this point?
No.
All right.
After the first year, about 8 months, I think that was it. So I was just self-taught after that.
Right, okay. And so did you feel that, other than just as... Other than that extra space the music teacher gave you, do you feel as though the GCSE music gave you anything more? Or was it just essentially another GCSE? I mean, did you go into the lessons going, I love music?
We did, but I don't know if that was the content. More, again, it's more the teachers and the way they delivered the content. And, but I'd be lying if I said I could remember anything, basically, that I did at GCSE music. And that's not a thing on the teachers, because I wouldn't be sat here as a musician if it were not for them.
Yeah.
It's not the content. The content doesn't matter, really.
That's so interesting.
It's the delivery.
That's exactly what Joanne and I were saying, in that our music teacher, she was incredible in so many ways, but I don't know if she's still alive, but I wouldn't want to diminish anything about her because she was wonderful and I wouldn't have wanted it a different way, but she didn't really teach us any music in terms of GCSE music, and the fact that I even got a low number was incredible, and that was due to the immersion in music of my own accord, but that was because of her encouragement. I mean, and as you know, and as I've said before, we got massive opportunities to go and sing at Notre Dame on Easter Sunday, and that kind of, it's the equivalent of us exploring the way you were exploring guitar, and I think that's so important that it was the opportunities, and Joanne was saying the same, it was the opportunities that we were given, and the fact that we were allowed, because we did the same thing, we just always hung out in the music studio, and it was just a big studio, it wasn't like a room, it was this massive studio, it was a different building, the art building, and the music studio above it was totally different to the rest of the school, which is literally over 100 yards away at least.
Yeah.
And every free period, and every lesson, unless you had a lesson in, we would be in the music studio, hanging around outside the music studio. That was our go-to place, and I don't remember break times very much other than being in the music studio.
Yeah.
And that meant there were pianos, there were all sorts of stuff you could just go and prat on and sing around, and that's my equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then that's got us through to GCSE.
Yep.
So what happened after that then?
So at the end, in the last year of school, I decided I want to continue with music. So I looked at various colleges, and the school did have a music A-level, to which the heads of the sixth form said it would be very, very detrimental if I left the school and went to another college. To which my music teachers just said, just go. They said it's better for you if you don't do it A-level, just go.
Really?
Yeah.
How wonderful.
So, because I don't think you'd only get like 2 people at most doing A-level music.
Really?
Yeah, and it's because the course wasn't, again, it was the same, it was sort of continuation of that classical theme, and...
Would it increase you, take the theory further?
Probably more, certainly classical theory, but again, it's the application in real life scenarios as to how useful that is, depending on what you do. Again,
this is what we were talking about, going back to the tetrachord just because it's fresh in my head. The tetrachord idea is of use to me, and I'm like, well, that's great, but I've also lived the last 47 years without it.
Exactly.
And it'll be a nice little tool to have.
Yeah.
It's like getting some random spanner that's really weird sizing, but it'd just be useful to have in your toolbox, but you'll only use it twice in your life. It's kind of one of those situations, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's the practical application of music, and it's such a huge subject that you can't be expected to fill it all in A-level.
No.
Or to fill it all in one subject, but then I think for that reason A-level, I'm not sure it's suitable. It's a suitable format for music, really.
No, certainly not for popular. And it has changed. I know it's changed.
Right, cool.
There is more.
Excuse me.
It is more evenly weighted. But I know people who've gone to courses, who are lecturers who have gone and have done the courses that enable them to teach A-level music, and they've come out of the courses being more clueless about the content than when they went in.
Wow.
And this isn't somebody who can't. These aren't people who can't deliver the content. It's just the course is just so muddled, or was certainly, that perhaps wasn't.
And again, that's potentially just to do with how much there is to learn, trying to work out what you want the students to come away with, and perhaps not getting a nicely smooth course. So
yeah, and there's quite a lot of modules, and there's quite a lot. Well, there's 4 modules, but there's quite a lot to learn in that space.
So you decided A-levels wasn't for you.
Wasn't for me. Plus, I had no idea what the other ones would be. So let's simplify, because obviously you have to take at least 3 or 4 A-levels.
Yes.
So
it was music.
Just music. There's no such thing as a backup plan. That's just.
So English wasn't one of your A-levels then?
No, God. So I went to Newcastle College.
And what did you do there?
So you could probably tell me better than this, because you reminded me of this a few weeks ago, that I can't remember which one it was. So I think I signed up for a music production course.
Yes, I do too. Not that I was there.
And then when I went to the open evening or something, they decided they were going to pool both courses together, which is what eventually ended up happening.
Right.
So it was a music performance and production course.
Right. So what did you learn there? Please don't say music performance and production, because I might tip some tea over your head.
So we learned, there was a dedicated theory class. There was, I know, shocking. You had instrumental sessions, production sessions where you do MIDI sequencing, time in the recording studios. You'd have band sessions. You'd have to put together performances.
Wow. So what were the theory sessions then? What sort of level was that taking you to, or just out of interest, or was it not? Was it more just going around more important things for to support the rest of the course? Sorry.
It was pretty foundational. I think what I would call, if a lot of it was sort of making major scales, because that's such a foundation for everything else in theory, because it all comes back to the major scale. Yeah. And things like that, and then there was things like classifications of instruments and things which I can't remember much of.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't use it.
Yeah.
So there's not enough brain space to hold it all.
But that's it, isn't it? And it's there. And some of the stuff you use and some of the stuff that you don't. So, in my life I've used Pythagoras' theorem a lot. So actually that has stuck with me very well, where for somebody who doesn't use it, and it is that use it or lose it.
Yeah,
I suppose you can argue with how far back it is in your brain and if you've ever totally lost it. But you file it under X and never open that filing cabinet again for many, many years.
Yeah. And in that, I think eventually it led towards, assignments would be, you'd go and pick a song and then you'd do some sort of analysis on it. So again, it's picking out the music and it could have been anything, but music that you like.
Awesome.
And pull out what you can theoretically from it.
So, and again, that's such a good way, and that's, that's how it should be. Life's, as we've said before, life's too short for me, to sing songs you don't like, or to play songs you don't like, perform songs you don't like. Carry on, sorry.
No. So those classes were really, really good.
And I think the production side of it, again, especially coming into this age of computerization, and because again, I'm not sure if I've got the original, but literally when I was doing GCSE, it was in the mid to late 80s. So literally computers were quite new, not new, but the first music programs had literally only just come out, and I remember my piece was actually printed out on a daisy wheel printer. That's the kind of back when the paper had a line of white and a line of green. Not wanting to show my age, but so back then it wouldn't have been so useful. But I think it would be more useful in modern day if some of the GCSE even touched a little bit more on the production side of it and the physics side of it without packaging it as physics, because I think that's so important when it comes to the computing side of it, and nowadays what's doable. So
it's amazing. See, we had, the facilities were amazing, and they probably still are, but they had a Mac suite, about 30 odd Macs.
Wow.
All running Logic, and it was,
oh my goodness,
every Friday afternoon it'd be get given a little task just to sequence something using the MIDI keyboards.
That's brilliant.
They'd give us little movies that you had to write, little 30-second clips. You have to write
music for them.
And
That's fantastic.
That's a really useful tool.
It really is making you do that, and I think just as simple as having a suite where you've got Macs with Logic on, or even if it had been, I think a PC's Cubase, or is it Cubase?
Yeah.
But just having that exposure at that age, even to some of the major music packages that you can get nowadays, again, which weren't around when I was young, you know.
Oh God, yeah.
This is not a woe is me at all, but it's kind of, it's so interesting to see, you know. Carry on, sorry.
No, it's all good. So yes, I mean, it can be a steep learning curve learning, some of the packages, but
gosh, yes. But that's what I'm thinking. Once you've got the
basics, they all basically do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it was a really useful thing. And then recording sessions, you'd learn songs and then you'd record them, instrument by instrument, sometimes live. Learn about the different miking techniques and how they had desks. And
that's the kind of thing that, in a way, I feel as though, it would be great for all musicians to have a little bit of that, because again, it's the equivalent of, you know me well enough to know I'm all about the analogies, but for me the analogy of that would be the difference between somebody who knows what a car does enough and somebody who knows a car drives. In my little theory is that people who know what a car does and understand what the clutch does will drive a car better than those people who don't, because the people who don't are literally just going through the motions that they've been taught without necessarily understanding why.
But
once you understand why, I think there's more capability to move around that and to get the best out of it. And I think, as a musician, if I knew, even now, if I knew more about mics than I currently do, and if I known about that earlier, I think that would have helped me a lot more, because again, you're not looking at it just as a musician going, I'm going to sing, but you'd be going, all right, this is the kind of mic I've got, right, this is how I need to work with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was all very practical. I think that's the.
Wow.
There was written assignments and things.
Of course.
And there was bits of history and it was all very much. It felt very cohesive, and it all felt like, rather than being individual modules, it all felt like everything sort of bled into one another.
Yeah. It was all feeding. Knowledge of one was feeding another.
Yeah.
So how long was that course?
It was 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so I was there.
So you were in a band at that time, Crawl?
So it was,
or was it the same band?
It was the same band.
That's awesome. What? So did the other guys do?
No, they stayed on at A level. They did their sixth form.
So are they A levels different?
Yeah. So they did A levels, whereas mine was a B Tech. So I moved on. So that band lasted about 6 to 8 months of that sort of transition period where I'd gone to college and they'd stayed on.
Yeah.
Just it fizzled out. It wasn't anything.
No, these things happen. Different life.
Yeah, it just
life moves, and sometimes it's difficult to.
So I met another lad on the course who could sing.
So now you thought that something about singers, did you?
Well, it was just happened to be there, really. Why not? So we came up with the grand idea of starting a blues rock band. He knew a drummer, I knew a bass player. I thought, right, it was from the old band. So we thought we'd get together in his kitchen one Saturday afternoon, and we wrote a sort of alt-rocky, punky type song, and then the rest. We never played a blues rock song to this day. But we went for about 4 years after that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And were you gigging with that as well?
Yeah.
Were you gigging with the old band other than outside of the school?
Little bits.
That's still a good experience.
Yeah, we did our first proper gig. We supported a Pink Floyd tribute band.
Wow.
Where the bass player wasn't there for half of it. Because he played hockey and he was really good at hockey. And I couldn't dissuade him to miss one game of hockey to come and be on time for our gig. So we were doing that. We were obviously a 3-piece for the most gig. To be fair, the other guitarist and the drummer were doing bits of singing.
Yeah.
But we did "Whole Lot of Love" by Led Zeppelin. And in the middle of all of it, there's a drum solo.
Yeah.
So this drum solo was sort of extended a little bit until the bass bit. My dad was standing holding his bass because he'd had word that he was like, they were parking up. So at the end of the drum solo it goes bam, bam, and he walked in, bang on those notes, and he stole the show.
Okay, so then you're at about 20ish now?
No.
Gosh, 18 of course, yes, I'm adding up. Right, so you've done your 2 years, which would have been, is the equivalent of A-level.
Yeah.
You got a lot more out of it than you would have in A-level.
Yeah.
Doing your BTEC in sort of music production and music performance.
Yeah.
So what happened then? You came out of that with probably knowing your flying colours.
Yes, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
It was pretty good. So after that, I decided to stay on. It was still at Newcastle College and do a degree in jazz, popular, and commercial music.
At Newcastle College?
Newcastle College.
Okay.
So it was originally Newcastle College.
Ah, right, okay.
But then we got to the end of year one, and there was sort of a whole degree meeting. And it was like, oh dear, there'd been rumblings that it was going to come to an end because the funding was drying up.
For Newcastle College, for that particular degree course?
Yeah. So we were expecting to be told, you're going to have to find somewhere else to go.
Oh, God.
But then we got there and got told that Sunderland University had taken it over and we'd now be located at the Sage in Gateshead.
Bugger.
Which is a bit of a,
Damn.
things you've got to do.
No. So this was, remind me, this was a degree in, what did you say, popular music and jazz?
Jazz, popular and commercial music.
Jazz, popular and commercial, that's the bit I always forget, and that's a really interesting point that would be great to come back to.
Yeah.
So you did year one of that at Newcastle College, so what kind of stuff, just give us an idea of what your kind of modules were or how it was structured or some stuff you learned.
Again, we had performance, so there's split down sort of performance, production, composition and arranging, critical theory and practice type things.
What's critical theory? Just like with
very good question, Hannah. It's all about developing critical thinking. So it's to develop that sort of academic.
Okay, being able to sort of deeper analysis of the pieces of music and really.
But it's all the theory and postmodernism and all that.
Oh my God.
Those wonderful things. And then instrumental lessons again.
So is that literally lessons on the instrument of your choice? And are those individual or are those more groups?
Small groups. There's only about I think 3 of us in a group.
Right, and so were you all at a similar level? Did they place it so that we were all at a similar level?
So the entry requirements had to be about grade 8.
Gosh.
In terms of play, you didn't have to have grade 8 because I never did grades. So, but as long as you could play a piece at grade 8 standard.
Gosh.
Good.
So you could could you read music by that point?
No, that was just before I got on the degree. I knew I would have to. So that was when I started sort of doing it in my own time, just trying to fathom it.
Right. Okay. So you must have fathomed it pretty darn well to get onto the course.
Yeah, and there wasn't. There might have been in terms of the audition, because you had to do an audition to get on.
Right.
There was a short theory exam, which again the college stuff had prepped me for. That was all fed in.
Right. Okay.
There was a few bits you didn't know, but
I suppose that's it, because it was through the college anyway.
Yeah.
At that point, they knew and they would feed it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I think you had to play 2 pieces, sort of contrasting styles.
Mm-hmm.
You might have had to do some reading a chord chart or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the level of reading. It wasn't reading
hardcore
dots or anything at that point.
Because that's always strikes fear into my heart.
Yeah.
Even now.
Me too.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was saying this to Joanne as well. She said something about. To me, Joanne is like a bit like. I'll be honest, I do that with you as well. You two are both on pedestals for me. I see you as even now, and I'm trying to get my head around the fact that it's not necessarily true. But I see you both on pedestals as musicians, and that I'm certainly not because I'm not worthy, but that I'm coming at it from a different point of view. And I know now that I'm much more of a musician than I believe myself to be a while back. But still seeing where you guys have come, and the fact that you it's interesting to hear your sort of, oh no, that strikes the fear into my heart as well. And Joanne had said something similar, which really shocked me and upset me. I think, what was it? It was sort of, what's the word? Inferior, not inferior complex. Not inferior, what's the word? Imposter syndrome. And she's still got imposter syndrome now, and that really shocked me because I'm like, how can you possibly need to have imposter syndrome when you are so incredibly skilled? And I'm not using the word talented because far too many people associate talented with being born with it, and that to me takes away so much from the amount of practice that's been put in. You know, it's skill and it's practice that gets you to that point. So it's interesting to hear you say that about your music reading as well, because for me, again, I see you as being a super music reader. So
I can get by. I can read, not bad, but
better than me when it comes to times, certainly. Anyhow,
it's difficult. It's hard.
Yeah. So okay. So you that was the sort of the test to go in.
Yeah.
So then you did all those different things in first year.
Yeah. And then it was pretty much more of the same, but obviously just developing on further onwards in the second year.
At the Sage now, based at the Sage.
Based at the Sage.
Through Sunderland.
Yeah. So we never really had anything to do with Sunderland Uni, to be honest. I've never been to Sunderland University.
Really?
No.
It was that much?
It was just literally you're at the Sage.
Yeah.
And the Sunderland University gave you a certificate at the end. That was their input.
Love it.
But yeah, so I think it felt more, moving at the Sage felt more, not pressured isn't the right word, but it felt like it upped the stakes a little bit.
Yes.
So it was worth putting that extra effort in.
So it really pulled everybody up a bit more.
Yeah, I
not
think
that they
so.
wouldn't have already done that, but
yeah, but I think there was opportunities then to play at the Sage, and performances were in the halls. So again, that's a big.
This is hall 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, never did hall 1.
That's a big hall, isn't it?
It's a big one.
I'm going the wrong way around, so it would have been hall 2 and 3.
So hall 2, and then what was Northern Rock, I don't know if it still is.
Oh yeah, which was hall 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the concourse as well.
Yeah.
Which felt more professional than. So it's starting to blur the lines now between you're just going to study, between there's a professional element to this.
Yeah, because you're hanging around where there's a lot of professional musicians coming in and out, isn't it? And more known musicians, even if they're not necessarily. Well, no, a lot of them are professionals, so yeah. And you'd have a lot more practice rooms because there's 20-odd practice rooms there, isn't there?
It's a little like rabbit warren down in the basement.
Yeah, I think we've been in most of them now as well. But yeah.
So we could book those out any time. We could book the record. There was a little recording studio. You could book that.
That's right.
So it just it opened up the availability for everything. And
yeah. So what happened then? How long was that degree?
3 years.
3 years. So that'll have been year 3 that you joined the band, wasn't it?
2012. Yeah.
2012. Good God.
January of 2012. I saw an advert on Gumtree for someone looking for a piano player.
That's right.
I thought, let's be cheeky. Who needs piano? Guitar's much better.
That's right. I remember.
And so we met at the Sage on one Saturday.
Yeah, I can remember. I can tell you. I can't tell you the name of the practice studio, but I can remember.
I can tell you where. I know where it is.
Well, which one was it?
I don't know which one. It's one with the glass fronts though.
Yeah, around the side.
Down the stairs.
Yeah.
Right and then left.
Yeah. Yeah. There were 2, and it was when you went down the side. There were the 2, and it was that one.
Yeah.
I remember. God. I remember that.
I ran some songs over the rainbow.
Yeah.
Because it's got to put me through faces.
Yes. I don't remember what the other songs were.
Down a crawl one.
Oh, it wasn't How High. No, not that one. Go east, go the west.
Yeah, that one.
I don't want to go there as I guess because I love me with you. My lord, did we get you to do that one?
He's me and Jenny, that's the thing.
Oh my lord. I remember coming out of that and thinking, do you know what? I think we should have been auditioning to... No, seriously, I did feel that we should have been auditioning to... Or I can't say that for the rest of the band because the rest of the band were fantastic anyway. But I always felt that I should have been auditioning to be in your band, to be honest. But yeah. that blew us away when you left. We were all like, yeah. I think we should take him. Like,
maybe wait though.
Did we?
Oh, it was a couple of days.
I don't remember
just for
that.
dramatic effect.
Just from because it was Ben, wasn't it? Yeah, so probably being a sort of stew in it for a little bit.
Yeah, which is fair. That is, to be fair, it's fair. And it's
was
fair.
Katie in the?
Yeah.
The Katie was there.
We didn't. I was thinking maybe. I think me and Katie might have done a gig the night before. And I think I might have just said that, I'm auditioning for a band tomorrow. And she was like, we're auditioning a guitarist for a band tomorrow. I was like, okay. Might be the same band.
Love it, yes, because Katie had come on board, I think a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Not that long before, because we were still in I think we'd only been going about a year-ish at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyhow, so you joined us, but you were in other bands and doing other things, because this isn't about that particular quintet, this is about you, but obviously there's going to be a lot of overlap.
Yeah. So the rock band started in college, that was still going. We're doing pubs and things and odd weddings, doing our own stuff. So,
are we getting to graduation yet?
Yes, this will be the last 6 months or so.
Right.
So in the last year of degree, I focused on what did I do? So I majored in performance, which meant you had to do a half an hour performance of whatever, as long as it was up to standard. Composition, I think I had to do one composition and one arrangement for like a large ensemble, and then there's the other sort of written assignments things. So and then I all went through. I had to do, for the performance side, we had to do a recital just in front of the examiners. And that was all wrapped up.
Recital.
So we had to perform a short programme of music. I can't remember the songs you did. I think it was 3.
So like a 15-20 minutes, you just entertaining the exam board.
Playing, I can't remember what I did.
Was that having to introduce them and that kind of thing as well?
I think so. I think it was.
Is that what made it the recital rather
than just the performance?
Right.
And I think there was probably a reading element in that, certainly rhythm reading, like exam type thing, within that recital part. But that all went fine. So that brought the degree to an end. So it was still there was a couple of bands. There was obviously the quintet, the rock band, and then while we'd been on the degree, they'd always insisted on there being a guitar ensemble because so many guitarists.
Right.
Most people didn't want to do it, but towards the end, there was about 4 of us, Katie being one of them, who decided let's keep that going, just because it's an interesting format that you don't see a lot of. 3 guitars and bass. So we kept that going for a while. It didn't last very long. So there was a couple of different things on the go.
And just if you want to share with us what grade you got.
I got a first.
You did?
I did.
Well done.
Thank you.
For marks, literally.
Yeah, it was good. I wasn't expecting it, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because, it's nice when it pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously put the work in.
Yeah.
Literally in terms of practice and everything else through the years to get you to that.
Yeah. So then graduation, and then it was all done with.
So by that point, I'm interested in, I guess there's a lot of what I'm interested in is your music reading as well, because for me this is, obviously as you know, this is my big issue with that. A lot of people think that you must be able to read music to be a musician and that you can't read music. So I suppose a lot of the time is what I'm asking is, how is your music reading at that point?
It was probably reasonable. I suppose with guitar it's slightly different in that a lot of it...
Because you're not reading melodies so much.
A lot of the time you're not reading melodies, a lot of it's just chords with rhythms. So as long as you've got good chord knowledge and you can decipher the rhythms, it's not, for me I don't find it as difficult as reading melodies. So at that point it was probably reasonably okay and was probably doing more of it.
Because we were all generally chord charts, weren't we?
Yeah, there was very few written parts. Around that time, maybe a year after graduation, or within a year, I got a gig doing The Wedding Singer, the musical.
Oh, that's right.
which it's it's all written. There's no. It's not really chords. There are chords written here and there, but it is mostly all standard notation written out. So that was sort of baptism of fire. So that was the first proper sort of reading gig I'd ever got.
And what sort of gig was that? Was that for pit band?
Yeah, so that was a pit band gig.
So when we're talking about a pit band here, we're not meaning as in, because the Durham area has a lot of coal pits, so quite often they're called the brass bands that are associated with the pit are obviously often called pit bands, but what we're talking about when we talk about pit bands is an orchestra pit.
Yeah.
And it's literally the band that's in the pit below the theatre or behind the theatre, playing while the musical or the performance is going.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of pit we're talking about.
Yeah. So that was a difficult read because it was for 3 guitars, but there was only me doing it, so I had to sort of condense the parts.
But does that mean you have a bit more opportunity that you didn't have to be reading it exactly as written, so you could actually condense the parts at the same time?
I don't for a second think I read it as it was written for most of it. I don't think I did read a lot of it as written.
Yeah.
There was probably a lot of interpretation. But there's a limit to what you... certainly in that scenario, there's a limit to what you can interpret.
It's sort of...
Because it's reliant on... Yeah, it's arranged in a way where you might be playing the melody the same as someone else, so if you divert from that melody, it's going to clash.
Yes, and a lot of the time, presumably, you're doing musical prompts for the people on stage, so you cannot afford to miss that prompt.
So that was the first sort of shoe in that door, and then John, who was the drummer in the quintet, got me on to a pantomime. No, it wasn't pantomime. It was like a cabaret type show.
Was that at Whitley Bay?
Seton Devil.
Oh, right.
So not far off. And then from there, so again, that was another one. That was a different show because it wasn't specific guitar parts. There was just sort of, there's the piano conductor score.
Make with it what you will. So
that was like that. The first one was really hard. I've still got the music actually, because certainly if they didn't have chords on, there was a lot of time spent trying to work out what on earth was going on. Like to play it, it would have made sense, but just reading it was difficult to extract just the basic chords of what was going on.
And the essence of what was needed against what was periphery.
Yeah.
Gosh, that is difficult. So there's a lot of time spent outside of rehearsals putting that together.
Because the way musical theatre works is you don't get lots of rehearsals. So for the band, generally speaking, you don't get lots of rehearsals. You get a band call and then a dress rehearsal, maybe a tech rehearsal if you're lucky. But other than that, 2 or 3 rehearsals of the show and then you're into it.
Yeah.
So there's no time to sort of stop and start and think, oh wait a minute, while I look at this piece, you've got to do the homework, unless you're good enough to read it.
Yeah.
Off the bat.
So, did that mean you had to get familiar with the musical or the piece?
Yeah, so it was a lot of going back and listening to
other performances of it to work out what the core parts were.
And a lot of them didn't have guitar parts because a lot of musicals don't.
No.
It's changing now, but certainly a lot of the older things don't have really prominent guitar. So it's just sort of stay out of the way at that point.
So a lot of your arrangements and a lot of the work you've done in your degree and in your BTEC about arrangements and of sort of improvising, that will have put you in great stead, and also about possibly the critical theory,
in terms of perhaps interpreting what's not there and being able to create something that's complementary to it, rather than and I think that's a big shift in thinking, actually, from going from being in a band, something like a rock band where guitars front and centre, to being very much, you have to sit back and you have to be part of something bigger.
It's the difference between being a singer at front and centre and being part of the choir.
Absolutely.
And knowing that as part of the choir, your voice should not rise above anybody else's.
Exactly.
You are just part of a team.
Yeah, and that's a big. Yeah. And for me, I was never one for going and being at the front. I can do it, but I don't enjoy it.
No.
But I can put on that sort of that front.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it is difficult to. So it's an ego thing. It's getting over the ego of needing to be heard all the time. Well, I don't have that problem. I'm quite happily not heard. So we'd done a number of, just in terms of the quintet, we've done lots of, I mean, you've done duo stuff as well alongside that quintet.
So the duo stuff that you were doing, that was with some random singer called Hannah.
Yeah.
And that was sort of jazzy,
That was lounge jazz sort of thing.
Jazz, that's the word.
Up at Newcastle Airport every
That was
Sunday.
lovely, wasn't
it?
it?
Was a good gig.
Tallies.
It was.
Yeah. At the Hilton.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a really nice gig, that one, yeah.
It was.
Shame that they stopped it. But anyway.
So yeah, and we've done a fair bit with the quintet, but I think it just ran its course, and we had a few stinker gigs that towards the end where things didn't go well. Not particularly on our part, but because of perhaps bad placement by agents and things.
Yes, Mustang Sally.
Oh,
that was a duo one.
That was a duo one, but they were the same venue. We had the same problem.
Ah, that's right, yes.
So we decided then as a quintet to sort of move into original stuff and do... Because we've got Dan on sax by this point, so we've gone back up to a quintet. And did funky, jazz rocky...
That's right, we started writing
stuff.
our own.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, and this is what I was telling somebody, who was I telling this at the beginning, that, when we started moving on to our own, and we kind of doing it anyway, but the way we started band practice was usually a good 20 minutes, half an hour, sometimes more, depending, with just jamming.
Yeah. So
really.
We start off with a groove or a chord or a drum beat or something, just...
Yeah, and that would almost come out of us tuning our instruments and getting ourselves sorted, and then out of that somebody would just start. And then we started recording that.
Yeah.
And what came out of that is that you could go back to the recordings and find some of those grooves and those things that really worked, and then expand on them, take them back and expand on them.
Yeah.
So carry on, sorry.
No, so then that sort of went through various incarnations. So around that same time, the rock band sort of fizzled out.
Was that the rock bands that you've been in from college?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's sort of the same sort of crossover period of the tail end of that is when Charlotte, the singer we worked with, we got together, and she was basically the three of us minus the singer of the rock band sort of transplanted to her.
Right.
And we did that for a few years, so again writing original music, did odd bit of gigging here and there.
Yes, because she was at uni elsewhere, or
she was doing uni in Essex.
So it was in her holidays that you'd come up practice, have a couple a bit like with the pit bands, you'd all practice and then she'd come along, join in, have a few practices before it, and then go and gig. And
in terms of writing stuff, it would be the three of us, like the non-singer people, would write chord progressions and songs and just say, there you go, pick what you want and write some words to it.
Yeah.
So we did an EP, 2015 or 16 I think it was. So yes, it was quite... That period, sort of 2014 to 17, 18, there was a lot of original music going on, which was really good. I was teaching at that point, just privately.
Teaching guitar.
And uke, maybe.
I was going to say, you teach ukulele now still?
No.
All right, okay.
I will.
Yeah,
if you want
can.
to, but I can't. But I haven't got anyone, so no. And then I can't really... I suppose again the quintet changed again, and then there were three.
There were. When was that? 2018? Something like that?
Before that.
Oh gosh, was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember. But it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was.
So again, we changed tack again, and we sort of decided to become a prog band as the three of us.
We just, again, it was because it's so interesting, isn't it, the different musicians. So when there were 4 or 5 of us, the taste of the fourth and fifth member sort of tempered our taste a little bit and made it that more funky jazz, which was great, and it was awesome. But when you then take that out and you have 3 much more rocky, slightly heavier rocky musicians, it automatically then changes the music written. And it wasn't that we said we wanted to be that proggy rocky, it was more that we just said, let's just go down this route, and it's the route that happened from the music that was written became that little bit heavier. And it's still a bit funky, but not maybe as funky as it would have been with Katie in it, because it was very much her bass funk influence, wasn't it? So Carry on, sorry.
So yeah, with that we wrote a load of material. We recorded some of it.
We did.
We've never finished it, but it's there to be finished.
It's there to be finished. To be honest, I think COVID.
Yeah, that put the brakes on.
Yeah, I think other things put the brakes on as well, but COVID I think was one of the big ones.
Yeah. So then sort of original stuff sort of fizzled out for me around 2019.
Fizzled out.
Fizzled just in terms of, again, it's I suppose it's difficult with original stuff, and it's difficult to find gigs.
Yes.
Certainly up here, there's not a massive, thriving original music scene.
No.
And as if you're a working musician, it's nice to get paid now and then.
And this is the point.
This is a different. Yeah, that's very cool.
No. This is about you. This is not about me. But it's a big point.
So eventually, your priorities have to change, and then you have to live.
Yeah.
And so the amount of time you dedicate to things that you're not maybe going to get paid for has to diminish. Yeah. To make time for the things that pay the bills.
Yeah. And it's so sad because that sort of diminishes the creativity a little bit.
It can do.
But it's how it is, as you say.
Yeah. So I do think it is important to try and carve out that time, even if it's just for yourself, in some capacity. Even if it's just having a jam with a looper pedal or something once a week or something, just to let that outlet or focus your creativity in ways that you can within the parameters you're working within. If it's teaching, how can you teach creatively? If you anything.
So that brings us now to hop over. How did you manage through COVID as a teacher?
So COVID moved all online on Zoom. So not everyone moved across, but most people were fairly up for it.
Oh, that's wonderful, yeah.
For the most part, it worked pretty well. Bar the usual teething issues.
Did you have to have two cameras? Fret and
no.
Sound?
No, I did it old school. I stood up and moved closer to the camera.
OMG! Love it.
To be fair, I think I did have it set up initially, but most people didn't need it.
Yeah.
So yes, that was in some ways I preferred Zoom teaching because sometimes it's just easy because you've got everything you need. If you forget something, chances are it's on the computer. You can just pull it up, or if it goes on a tangent.
Yeah.
And something comes up, the resources are there.
Because for you were teaching at people's houses, weren't you? You were going to them.
Yeah.
So, where for me, people come to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost for that reason, really.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of in-house teaching, and it is difficult because you do forget things, and then you're just like, and you are kind of hobbled a little bit.
Yeah. So that obviously all the gigs and shows and things were squashed for a full year.
And are you finding those are coming back for you now?
Yeah, I mean, last year was slow, but this year's been really good so far.
Brilliant. So that's your pit band stuff that you do?
Yeah, so and it's because a lot of shows from 2020 and 21 were sort of pushed back, so eventually they were all sort of mushed into this year.
So really your pit band work and your teaching work are the things that really bring you the income.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm being a bit rude, I suppose, in a way.
No, not at all.
And the odd gig outside
gig
of that.
Here and there, yeah. No permanent bands or anything, just what? That would actively kicking, if you let me.
No, that's true. No, that is true, but we'll get there.
But things, there's nothing sort of like a every weekend sort of band that I'm working with at the minute. It's just things as and when. And I like that freedom. It's nice to have that, not to be tied down to any particular source, as it were.
Source.
It's like source of income.
If you eggs in more than one egg in different baskets. Different eggs make it. Yeah. Yeah,
because if I'd just been doing gig work, then COVID would have royally put a break on everything because that was it. Yeah. So it's good to be able to have this spread.
A mix. And are you finding that some of your work still on Zoom, or has everybody gone back to in person, or have you got people further away?
I only do a couple on Zoom. One is someone who used to teach in person, but they've gone off to uni, so they've continued on Zoom. So that's great. And obviously, if she comes home, then we do it back in person. And then the other one is someone who just lives too far away, and they were just looking for someone.
That's brilliant.
And it works well for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant.
And then last September I started doing this sort of community project, which I don't know if I actually told you about.
This doesn't ring a bell. God, honestly, you'd think we were good friends.
No. Which is all about basically providing lessons and tuition on guitar and drums for people in the sort of Tanfield, Stanley area and further afield. So that's every Saturday morning, and they pay £2-3, and then there's 2 guitar teachers, 1 drum tutor. The drum tutor alternates between 2 people. But then, they learn stuff from us, they get them together as a group and play songs, and then they work towards concerts twice a year usually.
So how is this community based? What makes this different to private teaching? Is it just that there's more people, a group of people, do you mean?
Yeah, so there's anywhere between sort of 8 and 16 of them at a time.
Are they young people? Or?
Yeah.
Right. So
anywhere from 10 onwards.
Right. So they just come along with their own instruments?
Yeah. And it's funded. And it's in a local sort of kids youth club type thing.
Right.
And it's a really good project. And more than the instrumental sort of side of things, you see the greater benefits to music from it. Like the confidence it gives people, people who. So we did a show in early July, I think it was. And some of them were so nervous, like sort of panic attack level nervous, not going to come, and then they sit in front of the instrument and they think, and literally one of them was, just before I was about to play his one song, like, I'm so excited.
Yes.
And then he plays it and then they just don't want to get off stage.
Yes.
And the one kid who was I can only do one song, I can't play any of the others. He was there for 3. Once he was up there, it's
wonderful. And the high when they come off, having done it and accomplished it. And I did that sort of thing,
Absolutely, and they carried, we were up on stage with them, but they carried it.
Yeah.
And it, 15, 16 to carry it. And some songs weren't easy.
No.
But they're just great.
This is, I think, the greater thing about music. It doesn't have to be about the music, it's the internal confidence that it gives people in life. And that's certainly for me with what I teach, and it's about finding your voice. And for me, it is meant to be quite a vague thing. It's not just finding your voice literally, it's finding your voice in terms of finding that confidence in yourself, to be yourself and to find who you are. And I think that's so important, and music can help you express
Absolutely,
that.
It really can. Yeah, for some of them it's like that is their thing, that's really sort of grounds them. Yeah. And that's, some of them don't, it's meant to be for anyone can attend, there's no barrier. Even if you don't have an instrument, there's instruments there you can use. So again, like what we said earlier, it removes that level of privilege.
Yes. Which is so important in the north and in some of the particularly deprived areas of the north, because you just don't have that.
You don't.
And it's changing the subject again a bit, but for me, because I teach a lot and a lot of my students are in the south as well, so for them my charges are they're like, oh, that's quite cheap.
Yeah.
But for people up here it's not necessarily cheap, so I tend to keep it there, because I could just charge more and just get people from the south, but I don't want to.
No.
So I just about keep it the musician union lowest margin level, and I will have to keep putting that up in line with inflation and everything else, but it's about but even then it's still more privileged people whose parents can afford private tuition. So maybe that's something I could look into here with the hub as well. That's, again, not about me.
No, it's good. I think it's good to have something, if it's possible. Like, we need more things like this, because otherwise kids just don't have access. Some kids just don't have access to the music. And that is a crying shame. Because it can do so much for the evidence is there, you can see it as they turn up each week.
It's about a feeling of being part of something.
Yeah.